This is Democracy Watch. Mark, Trump has found himself in the throes of yet another legal battle. We have breaking news right now. The AP is suing the Trump administration, suing the chief of staff, the deputy chief of staff, and the press secretary for violating the Constitution and barring the AP from these press briefings. In your opinion, how good of a case does the AP have against this White House?
Oh, the AP has got an airtight case. The literally, the First Amendment of the Constitution prohibits exactly what Donald Trump has admitted they are doing. A more clever White House, a three-dimensional chess playing president would not be going out and saying, "Oh yeah, we're definitely banning the Associated Press because of the words they use." Literally because they don't like the words that the Associated Press are using. And if you think about it, imagine if you had a White House that said, we didn't like the story that the press ran, so therefore we're not going to give them access to the White House. It is in this instance, obviously, they're saying they don't like the fact that they use the term Gulf of Mexico rather than Gulf of America, even though Gulf of Mexico has been the designated term and is still the internationally used term to describe the waterway. So the AP has a great case here. The question is, why the Trump administration has picked a fight with the Associated Press.
And I think to that exact point, and we can talk about that right now, this is basically their effort to do what Trump has relied on for so long, which is using his bullying tactics, using intimidation as a strategy to get people to basically cower to him, to kowtow to him, and to do what he wants.
Right. I understand that Donald Trump is a bully. I understand that Donald Trump doesn't care about the Constitution. What I don't understand is, of all of the things that he could dislike about the press enough to violate the Constitution. And just to be clear, so everyone out there knows, this is a lawsuit brought under the First Amendment and under the Fifth Amendment. The Fifth Amendment guarantees due process of law. And here there was obviously no process given. This was a totally arbitrary decision that was made by the White House. So that's why that is pled as well. But I understand why he would do things in disregard of the Constitution. But why over the name Gulf of Mexico? Like, of all of the weird lines to draw, you've had media outlets that have called him, lying and telling, inciting violent insurrection in the Capitol and like all of these things. This is the place, Brian, that he draws the line.
And I don't think it's necessarily about this, although we can talk about that in just a moment. But I think this is just, it doesn't really matter. It's a placeholder for his ability to just try and confer power onto himself, total power onto himself, however he can do it. It just so happens in this instance to be the Gulf of America, the Gulf of Mexico. But I think if it were any other thing, that would still be adequate justification for him to try and move forward by barring the AP from the White House, barring any news outlet from the White House. It's really just about the broader theme of him being able to kind of Bigfoot these media outlets into doing his bidding. But I do think that there is something else that specifically is attributed to the whole Gulf of America thing, and that is he wants things that can survive him. Like he wants legacy things, and he's trying to do splashy things, and this is something he knows would outlive him if he's successful at getting it done. That's why he's pushing to, as ridiculous as it is, trying to get Canada to become the 51st state, trying to get Panama as part of the United States, trying to get Greenland. He wants these splashy things that will outlive him, that basically cement his legacy because he doesn't want to be, it's all about ego for him.
Yeah, and I think you point out a really important thing that everyone needs to be paying attention to, because it's really smart and it is critical to understanding Donald Trump. In some ways, he would rather pick a fight over a little thing like this to exert power, to show that he can ban the Associated Press, the most venerable news organization. People may not know this, but the Associated Press historically typically gets the first question in all presidential news conferences. They are viewed as kind of the most honest recorder of history that there is. And if he can ban them over something as petty, as small as what a waterway is called, then he has shown absolute power. And I think to your second point, the Associated Press style guide is widely used by news organizations throughout the country. So even if it was just the Associated Press, it'd be one thing. But since the words that the Associated Press uses, the way in which they capitalize sentences, the way in which they do punctuation, the way in which they name bodies of water, that has a ripple effect throughout the entire world that literally adopt a document called the AP, the Associated Press Style Guide. And because he has this megalomaniac need to be like, have a something for history and for posterity, he knows if he can change that style guide, if he can change that, then he has cemented this
Right.
for a very long time across continents.
Right. These people are the gatekeepers. If he can get through them and get them to cower, very much in the same way that he's gotten so many other news outlets, so many other tech billionaires to cower to him, then he will have really erased the only obstacle in his way. Can you talk about the fact that the AP is doing what so few other outlets are doing, what what ABC News and George Stephanopoulos refused to do, what it looks like CBS News is refusing to do, what Jeff Bezos and the owner of the LA Times and Mark Zuckerberg are all refusing to do? Can you talk about, is it surprising to see the AP actually taking a stand in a broader ecosystem where so few people are willing to put themselves out there?
No, actually, I'm not surprised that the Associated Press is doing this. You know, we talk a lot about the legacy media, and that is a good term of art that captures it mostly, but it's also sort of a proxy for corporate media. And the Associated Press is a nonprofit organization. The Associated Press does not have a corporate overlord. The Associated Press is not owned by someone who's also trying to enter into government contracts with the government.
Right.
It's not owned by a billionaire who is also trying to launch rockets. Right. It is just a nonprofit that is committed to providing access to news and information to a broad range of entities that pay for their service. People don't realize if you get a local newspaper or you watch local TV and you see national coverage, odds are you are seeing coverage that they have purchased from the Associated Press. They are kind of the aggregator of news coverage that then gets distributed out through television and radio and print networks so that people can stay informed. But as a result, they are only beholden to the people who donate to the Associated Press and to the honesty of their coverage in the news outlets that pay for it. So, they are among the legacy media, probably the only ones who I would expect to stand up to the likes of Donald Trump, and good for them.
Mark, for posterity here, because we live in hell, can you talk about the legality of Trump actually being able to rename the Gulf of Mexico? Does he have the right to be able to just rename an international body of water?
No. I mean, Donald Trump, look, what's interesting about the lawsuit from the Associated Press, and this is like a testament to just how punctiliously honest these folks are. They point out that when he said that Denali, which is the historic name of the largest mountain in the United States, it is obviously the largest mountain in Alaska. When he changed it unilaterally to be Mount McKinley, this was over the objections of the local community in Alaska. It was over the objection, by the way, of the Republican senators from Alaska, right? This is a wildly unpopular thing among Alaskans. But the Associated Press changed their name. They changed the style guide to say, call it Mount McKinley, because it's a mountain in the United States. It's a national park in the United States. It is the president's prerogative to say that it is called something else. Right. And as unpopular as that may be, the AP was just playing it down the middle. As you say, the Gulf of Mexico is an international body of water. It is not something that belongs to Donald Trump. It is not something that Donald Trump has the power to decide what the name is. It would be like Donald Trump deciding to rename France, right? Like, it's just not something within his power. Yeah. And the Associated Press's job is not to do propaganda for the president or, for that matter, against the president. Like I said, I would rather they stick with Denali, but their job is to just call it like it is, play it down the middle. That's why people pay so much attention to their style guide. And so Donald Trump is not within his authority to do this. But even if he had that authority, he cannot punish a news outlet for writing something that he doesn't like. Let's say that Democracy Docket, we decided, we're going to keep calling it Denali. even though he has called it something. He has called it something else. Let's say we decide that we are going to say that Donald Trump is an election denier. Donald Trump is a convicted felon who does not belong in the Oval Office. He cannot punish democracy docket for free speech. Yeah. And so, like, we have to just keep in mind at first principle here, he has not just quietly done this. He has boasted that he has used the power of the federal government, that his chief of staff, his deputy chief of staff, who are paid for with taxpayer money, his press secretary, these are people who do the work of the American people. They are paid for by American taxpayers, and they are not free to engage in an act of retribution, explicitly retribution, because they don't like the words that a news outlet used. The last thing I want to say, Brian, is this, and I want to say this to the legacy media. Shame on you. You know, they kicked the Associated Press out weeks ago. And did you walk out with the Associated Press? No. When they banned the Associated Press from the press pool, did you say, you know what, then we're not going to participate? Right. No. When they kicked them off Air Force One, did the rest of you say, you know what, we're not going to fly on your plane either? No. What you all did is shameful. You know, you claim you stand for democracy. You say democracy dies in darkness. But yet, when the Associated Press, an outlet that each and every one of your news organizations relies on to one extent or another for your own publications, when they were targeted, did you stand up? No. You claimed that you were doing quiet diplomacy, that you were applying pressure quietly to Susie Wiles. I mean, give me a break. You think quiet diplomacy is going to work with this White House? So good for the Associated Press. Shame on the legacy media for not standing with them and putting real pressure on this White House, because that would have shown real leadership in this time of crisis.
And by the way, you know damn well that if all of these news outlets decided to walk out in solidarity with the AP and deprive Donald Trump of the attention that he so desperately thrives off of, that we would have had swift action, basically getting them back into the press briefing room. But again, none of them were willing to do that. They were still willing to heap all of this attention, turn on those cameras, point them toward Donald Trump. And so, of course, he wasn't going to change his tune, because they didn't exercise any leverage against him. So to your exact point, good on the AP. I do take issue with one thing you said, Mark, and that is that if Donald Trump decided to rename France, you and I know damn well that every single Republican in Washington, D.C. would be calling France whatever Donald Trump wants it to be. So just want to put that on the record there. With that said, while we're talking about the failings of the media, I do want to reiterate for folks who are watching right now to support independent media that is fearless, that is not going to basically kowtow to the whims of somebody like Donald Trump. Please sign up for Democracy Docket. It's the news outlet Mark founded to focus on everything voting in elections. It's a resource that I use on a daily basis. Highly recommend that you go ahead and sign up. I'll put the link right here on the screen and also in the post description of this video. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
I'm Marc Elias.
This is Democracy Watch.